Welcome to Agent Summit, day 2. How many of us are hungover? Quite a few. I am not, but I'm thankful for that. I know what you all are thinking already. I was going to be taller. I'm not. And this is who I am. This is who God made me to be. I bumped it. So we're going to talk about acquiring talent and building a high-performance sales team. But before I go into that, I want to tell you a little story about myself, my family, and my career path. I had the privilege of falling into the car business almost 2 decades ago. A friend of mine from Arizona State University, his name is Tyler Yates. God rest his father's soul. His dad owned Yates Pontiac Buick GMC in Goodyear, Arizona. He talked me into selling cars. And 2 weeks in, I met a guy named Tom Stuker, which I know many of you all may know. He trained me how to sell cars and set appointments on the phone. And after meeting him, I met a gentleman by the name of Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown is out of Marietta, Georgia. He owns Superior Automotive Company. And I remember he was selling us on this super polysteel program with IAS. And I remember him saying, it helps you with the love bugs. Well, my wife and I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I said, what in the hell is a love bug? And so we went through this process and he showed me that you can make extra money in commission when you have a Mini. And I don't know if many of you had the fortunate opportunity of working in the automotive industry back when it was during the recession. I did. Margin compression was real. You were losing money on a lot of cars. So that extra $50, $100 per car made a big deal to me in my life at that time. And so I became dear friends with him. I looked up to him, and I never realized the day that I sat in that room when he gave us coffee, muffins, and bananas, I said, you know what? One day, Charlie, I'm going to do what you do. Fast forward to 2023, I had the opportunity to start my own agency. But there was a path between the beginning of that career and now, and a friend of mine, Adam Marburger, and I were talking about it yesterday. A lot of people would want to come and work for an agency, especially when you have a lot of social media marketing or branding online and people see it and it looks glamorous. And a lot of people want to have what you have, but do they want to do what you did to get there? And so when we talk about that career path, when I was working for a large GPS administrator from 14 to 18, I realized that I could quickly learn things, excel, collaborate with cross-functional partners. But where I struggled was I worked for these insecure leaders that were always self-preservationists. They would always find ways to manipulate posture, utilize little Chad for what little Chad was good at. And then all of a sudden, I was left empty in my emotional cup, right? And so in that process, at the beginning of it, my wife of now 10 years, Alexi, sitting right over here, she encouraged me to want more, to see more. Her father is a mentor of mine. He's a wonderful human being. We'll get into that later. And in that process, I had left that company. I went to Easy Care, worked for Larry Dorfman, which a couple of guys over here, Pete Lee and Rob Mira, worked with me there. They're wonderful friends of mine. And Larry introduced me to Dave Anderson. Dave Anderson helped me realize to develop a why behind everything I do. And so I put this slide up here because I want to talk about the why behind the business. Like Adam talked about yesterday, God first with my faith, my family second, my wife, my son, the rest of our family, and our business. And our business, the people that work with us are our family. And it's all about relationships. And what I realized, and I swore to this back in the day, was I swore to be the leader I wish I had. I always had these people around me that were, again, insecure, very political, would tell you what you wanted to hear, and then behind closed doors would sabotage you in other ways. And so in that process, I realized, this is going to be the number one thing when I start my own agency. The other thing was giving back, having a self of significance. I met through Dave Anderson a guy by the name of Phil Beckner. He's one of the elite NBA coaches and trainers in the NBA, has a brand called Be Better, Be Different. If you guys know who Damian Lillard is, he was his college coach and they're best friends. He lives in Arizona as well, and we got close, and we're still very close. And he has a foundation called the Legacy Foundation, where we provide shoes and clothes and mentorship for underprivileged youth at high schools in Arizona that are a part of sports programs. And so that's a big part of my why. So I'm always looking to give back. Now, when it comes to developing a high-performance sales team and acquiring talent, I kind of summed it up into 5 areas. Number 1, I kind of alluded to already, which is servant leadership. That's something that you have to live by because people want to work for people that they not only like, they trust, but that put them first. I've always been a big follower of John C. Maxwell, and he always talks about the only way you're going to get somebody's hand is if you get their heart first. And so you have to earn that. Well, how are you going to earn that? Make it all about them. That's the same way in business. If you're trying to earn relationships and cultivate business and sell to people, so many vendors try to hit me up on a regular basis. And I know you get this too. And they're like, hey, I have this product. And I swear you haven't seen anything like it. I'm like, okay, go ahead and send it over to me. I look at them like, not really interested. And my time is my most valuable asset. So when I think about it, I'm like, seek the relationship first, put the person first, get to know them, get involved in the drama of their life. Oh, okay, let's figure out who you are, where you're from. So that's a big part of servant leadership. The other part of it is going to be building relationships, timing, and overall just recruiting. And I'll get into ABR and that. People development is the other component because, David Green and I were talking about a lot of our dealers today are struggling with bringing on talent and then retaining talent because the world we came from, we're now back in a world that's very similar to the recession that I started in the automotive business in, which is prosperity drained urgency. People got fat and lazy. Everybody thought they were rich and good looking. Why? Because them. And the reality of it is that's not the truth. It's marketplace momentum. So how do we get ahead of that? We invest in our people. Well, a lot of us are here because money makes the world go round. Next one's compensation. Last one's going to be execute to win. So just an opening thought that I kind of wanted to put up here. And by the way, if you see a QR code, hopefully the thing works. Feel free to engage in it too. You can scan it and you can put in your thoughts. But building an agency is all about attracting, onboarding, and retaining that talent and then executing to win. And I think that's never been more important because anybody can be a one-man show, service a handful of stores, and that's cool. Like if that's what you want to do, nobody's knocking that. My why is I want to have a legacy where I help tons of people, and when I'm dead, what do they remember little Chad Staples by? That's what I think about. So this is something that I learned from Phil Beckner. I had the fortunate opportunity to attend the Final Four last year, and I'm sitting in the front row. He had a coach's clinic, and in that coach's clinic, he had 300 Division I coaches all in this room, and I'm in the front. It's pretty cool. And in this, he talked about when they have people that are going to be developing to get drafted to go to the NBA. They said it's never been easier to get into the NBA. It's never been harder to stay in the NBA. And they said when they work with these individuals, what are the 4 things that are absolutely disqualifiers? And I thought, this really resonated well with me because in my organization, I think of the same thing. Because I can reflect and look at these things and say, oh, wow, lack of availability. If I text message somebody and they don't get back to me, that's not somebody I want in my life. I don't care how busy you are. If you look at your schedule and you don't prioritize a relationship in your life, at least giving somebody the consideration to message them back, I'm out. The other thing is lack of professionalism. I've experienced people showing up late, not being ready to go, unprepared, chewing gum, spitting the Zin out. I'm not against it, but just do it beforehand. Be clean shaven, be prepared. Lack of purpose is a big one for me. If you don't have a clearly defined why and you're in a business for yourself, that's a mighty small business to be in. So, and the last one's lack of teachability. And I think out of all of them, I think this is the biggest one because when we work with professionals in our industry, we've all got to where we are because of mentors around us. Tony Higgins is sitting right here. He's been a wonderful mentor to me in the industry. He's taught me a lot. He's helped me gain a greater level of humility, and we've had a lot of fun in the process. But my point is had I not been receptive to that, I'm going to fall even harder down this hill and self-sabotage rather than having a point of humility to kind of walk through that teachability. So talking about servant leadership, I'll have a few quotes up here. This one is, people would rather follow a leader who is always real than is always right. It's not about being right. My wife and I talk about this all the time. I'm not trying to be right. I'm trying to do what's right. And when I think about my time at that GPS admin in particular, I was doing a lot of training for what was the Van Tuyl organization, Berkshire Hathaway now. And there was a senior leader of the organization who hired me, Didn't have car business experience. Told everybody he did. I knew he didn't because he was honest with me. And he would leverage my abilities and strengths to close deals and take full ownership of it, all credibility. And during that time, I was young enough and still a little insecure in my position because I had spent so many years in retail. I didn't really feel like I quite belonged, and I was trying to pave my way. And in that time, I remember I had just gotten done doing a new onboarding class with all the F&I people at Berkshire. And we got done, we had lunch, and one of the individuals that ran that department had just recently left. And I was the top sales guy in the whole company. I would train everybody that came and onboarded. They would fly to Arizona to ride with me. And I asked him, I said, hey, can I have the opportunity to just work with the Berkshire channel? Because I will increase penetration, profitability across the board. And he goes, brother, I can do whatever I want. I was like, yes, I'm gonna get it. Not even 2 weeks later, this was September of 2017, I get a phone call on a Tuesday night. I'm sitting at home with my wife. And he's like, hey man, what do you got going on tomorrow? I said, well, I'm training a couple of folks from the East Coast. And he goes, great, I'll have mine join too. He had hired 2 people to fill that job who couldn't fill that job. And then he wanted to put the onus on me to train them. That was the beginning of the end for me there. So in that, I decided I will never be that person. Another one is motivation. You have to inspire people in order to motivate them. You have to connect with them. The only way you're gonna motivate them is if you get to know them. If you're surface level, hey, how's it going? Oh, it's great. Okay, is there any way I can help you? What do you have going on in your life? How's your family? How's your kids? Know their names. Call them out, have specificity. Words matter. Building lasting relationships is a part of that. And realistically, prioritization. If you don't put other people first, they're gonna leave you. You know, it's like we say in the in the retail space, when you have your opportunity to do business, we're like, they're leaving anyway, right? So you gotta capture them and you gotta find a way to connect with them, create objective value, and close it. So if you guys wanna scan this, I just wanted to ask any of us that do have agencies or have had experience with agencies, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to recruiting top talent? This is an interesting story. So you never know about the seeds you sow until later. We were talking about this, about relationships and putting other people first and really having an idea of objective value, but just helping people. And, you know, a friend of mine that was a trainer at APCO had left and went to another administrator. And this was in November of 23. I was about 9 months into owning my own agency. We had cultivated just around like 70, 75 stores that we were doing business with. Really great revenue. I had brought on my VP of sales and an assistant at that time. And I got a phone call. I was going to the World Series when the Rangers were playing the Diamondbacks. It was November 1st in the afternoon. Sitting in the parking lot, and he calls me and he says, Chad, are you hiring? And I said, nope. What's up? He goes, well, there's this guy. He lived in the area with me in Omaha. He worked at a GM dealer as a general manager for a number of years, moved to Arizona, worked at Ally on the product side for about, I would say, 4.5 years. He said he was laid off this week. I said, oh man. He goes, but dude, he's a great guy. He's got the aptitude. You should just call him. I said, I pray for stuff like this. I'll give him a call. So I call this individual, Sean, who works for us. I go, hey, Sean, my name is Chad Staples, president of Elevation Dealer Services. And I heard about what happened with this week. And I just want to say, I'm sorry. And I want to see what you are thinking about maybe next. He goes, this week, it happened 2 hours ago. I'm sitting in the line to pick up my kids and I haven't told my wife yet. And I'm like, and I dropped my phone in the car. And so I texted him. We ended up linking up. He started working for me. And he started on commission only. And there are a couple of schools of thought we'll get into in that, but he started on commission only. His car had a major issue about 2 months in. And I could tell he was extremely worried because he was living off severance. And you know how they have the GE Capital thing where you can finance it? And I called him and I said, hey, you better not be applying for that. And he goes, well, I was thinking about it. And I said, just put it on your company card. And he did. And he like told me, it brought him to tears. He appreciated it. We're almost 2 years later, and he's one of our top salespeople. He's making over 15 grand a month. He's incredibly loyal, and he's an even better human. And he's been motivated to lose weight and to do different things. He said his marriage is better, and he's just done and accomplished different things. And it was all because these little seeds you sow and encouraging people and helping them in a time of need. When we're looking at recruiting and building relationships, and the timing of it is very, very important, I think developing a talent pipeline is a part of this ABR mentality, always be recruiting. I, on a regular basis, will be talking to people constantly, where I might not have a spot for them now, but 6 months from now, the timing might be right, both in their life, our life, or the business might say, hey, we need someone to come in and do this training. And so that's been something that we've followed across the board. And I think leveraging your network and referrals has never been more important, whether it's dealer clients, calling up a dealer and going, hey, who in this market, I just lost somebody that took another opportunity, who in this market do you know that's reputable, that you would say services the account well, tells the truth, is high character? Get a great referral. That's something I've leveraged before. Working with administration partners or even events. Those are other areas to think about it. Social media and digital branding. Adam does a wonderful job with this. He meets tons of people, including dealers, does not knock on doors. The same with acquiring talent. People call you all the time wanting to work for you. I get the same thing. I've only been in business for a third of the time he has, and I have people calling me all the time. So it's a blessing to have. But you got to sift through the sand because there's a lot of people that, again, want what you have, but they're not willing to put in that work. Another thing is building a strong employer brand is really important to show people that your culture is top-notch, that you care about people, and it shows who you really are. Don't contrive it because people can see it. They know that it's forced, it's fake. Just be you and create objective value, show the educational content and the why behind what you're doing. And then the last one is personality testing. I will tell you, I have made some hiring misses over my career, and had I not leveraged personality testing more often, there are some blind spots in my own ego where I thought, oh, this person's great, everybody interviews pretty well, but yet I still think I could will them to an ability of what I have. And the reality of it is they just weren't there. And so that's a little bit of self-deception. So in some of these key components of the training aspect, when you're onboarding people, you have to make sure that you are onboarding them efficiently, that you're showing them the account management. I can tell you this, if you're thinking about pulling somebody from retail, it is at minimum a 9-month learning curve. Getting through prospecting, their time management is huge because what they did in a store where they wrote down everything in their department of what they had to do that day, who they needed to follow up with, whatever their standard operating procedure is, it's vastly different, especially when you're working from home and you're traveling. It's on you to do every key piece of it. For me as a leader, every single person on my sales team has to send me a weekly game plan the week before, and I have a template that I use that's showing me where they're going, what they're doing, if it's account management, prospecting, what the key high points are and what they're going to accomplish and what the ROI is going to be. And if not, it's a waste of their time. CRM and check-ins, it's vital. If you don't know what they're doing every day, especially if they're in white space markets outside of your local area, you can't manage them very well. You don't know if they're hitting the bar early or if they're doing something. We went through that recently. It's unfortunate. Another thing is being able to discern what is a priority versus urgent. That's huge. And then the other components are, again, they have to understand a claims process. They have to understand things about claims. We're not just goodwilling everything. And then the reinsurance piece, giving them little nuggets and profit sharing over time to learn that. And then what Jake has really unearthed for us that has changed the world is investment policy statement. It's absolutely huge. So another one, there's a friend of mine who, he started working with me at an admin company about almost 8 years ago. And we created a great friendship because he didn't come from the automotive space. We met, we had communicated about some different things. I kind of showed him, hey, this is a car deal. This is what you do front and back end. These are the different terminologies. This is what you need to know to be successful in this industry to be able to speak dealer and have credibility when you show up. Because again, us from the retail space, we can sniff it out. So we spent a lot of time, and I got to say, it's been a very gratifying relationship for me because I didn't manage him, but we're still very close friends. And he's accomplished great things in his career. We've collaborated on a lot of stuff, and he's still in this industry today, and he's been doing stuff for us. And it's just been wonderful for me to see that, like those little seeds you sow. When everybody laughed at him in a training class, I was like, nah, this dude's smart. He's here for a reason, and I'm just gonna sit next to him, we're gonna talk. And I asked him a lot of questions and just showed him a few things. And next thing you know, we're drinking a couple bourbons, sitting down, and we're going through stuff every night together. And those little things pave the way for a lifelong relationship if you foster it correctly. And so my big thing is, and I'm always focused on self-development here, is when the leader gets better, everyone gets better. So compensation is important. Everybody knows that. And when it comes down to that, the only way you're gonna retain people is by paying them well, incentivizing them for their performance, not just slapping them with a big salary. I've made these mistakes. The other thing is too, 1099 versus W-2. I know this is a common thing. There's a lot of sub-agents out there. People will look at things and go, okay, well, 1099, less risky, commission only. W-2, you have more control. But what are the state laws, regulations? If you lay them off, do you have to write them up? Do you have to document incidents? So there's a myriad of different things. One of the big ones on the far right, I will tell you, avoid large guarantees. Tony and I have talked about this at length. All these people want all this money, and then you give it to them, and they don't do anything. I burned through a lot of capital on people I've known and trusted. Guy worked with me at the GPS admin 10 years ago. I tried to hire him when I was at the warranty administrator, 2019, and then he called me last summer, hey, I'm ready to go. He lasted 65 days. You learn those lessons the hard way. And so I think it's never been more important to have incentives that are performance-based, that are directly correlative to whatever they're producing and signing with the dealer, because otherwise if you give them too much up front, if there isn't, I know Jacob, Tony's partner, said there's got to be a sacrifice. If there's a little bit of a sacrifice, they have way more skin in the game, their back's a little bit against the wall, they're going to perform. All of the ones that have performed on our team are ones that had their back against the wall. Some other creative ideas, equity incentives, agent reinsurance. You give them a piece, you have full control, ownership of it, but guess what? They feel like they have skin in the game. Then when it comes to paying claims, and then they can be a steward and they can go, I'm making a business decision because this is my nest egg one day. That's going to retain them. Another perks and benefits, we pay for people's medical, dental, vision. We give everybody a company gas card that pays for travel expenses. Just little things. It's a differentiator. Not everybody does it. But again, it's not a runaway train, but it provides value for people, especially if they're on the road. The other thing is leadership and culture. So what I've learned about a great leadership culture is if there is a leader that you want to be like, it's somebody that has similar core values to you, and you can resonate with either their story, their testimony, where they've come from, where they want to go, and they can show you this vision of this is where we want to be in a year, 3 and 5 years, then that's somebody you want to work with. Then put in the work to make that happen with that person. And I think it can be really incredibly structured between some of these key factors. Being consistent with excellence. Adam and I talk about that a lot. How you do anything is how you do everything. And what you tolerate will become a toxic cancer in your organization by letting one person slip up, the entire team sees it. So you have to cut the head off the snake in those situations. And it's incredibly hard. I just went through something like that recently. It was very unfortunate. Mentorship, hitting people right between the eyes with accountability, but still showing them love. I think that's really been important in my life. I can look back to specific days and times when I had a wonderful mentor that just hit me right between the eyes in a loving way. And I was like, it's time for me to change. Delegation. My wife talked me into hiring an assistant about 1.5 years ago, and it was the biggest blessing in the business because I was trying to do all things because I could, and I wanted to be a control freak. And it would come at the cost and expense of my mental health and time and intentionality with my son and with her. And as soon as I hired my assistant, I was able to delegate like 40% of all these non-revenue generating tasks that opened me up for greater opportunities. So thank you, Lexi, for that. And then leadership opportunities, giving people the opportunity in your organization to lead. We have team calls every week and we'll collaborate. I'll give one of the people on the team an opportunity to lead the team, lead the call, talk to him, collaborate, and you'll quickly see who the next leader in your organization is going to be if you give them these opportunities to foster this leadership environment of collaboration and ultimately give them that oxygen and fuel and encouragement to continue doing so. The last one for me is execution, because I have learned something. A lot of people will do a lot of things and they won't do them well. What is it, like a jack of all trades is a master of none? I've always said complexity is the enemy of execution. I heard that from somebody a long time ago. And for me, I just try to focus down on each individual thing to do them extremely well. Like my father-in-law says, he can do 5 things well. He tells me I can do about 3 things well. He said most people can do 1 thing well, right? So in that's taught me, okay, I can't get distracted. I can't take all these calls, all these vendors trying to solicit me. I've got to put first things first, and I have to prioritize things. And then from there, have accountability with the team, make sure that we're empowering them with the vision and goals. And then we're having a consistent process and performance that's replicable and that's measurable, so that when there's a delta, something is off, that we're then able to look at it and go, this is where you made a mistake. This is what I would have said. This is how I would have followed up. And this is how we're going to course correct. And again, just measure what matters. And the last one for me is to celebrate people publicly. Even if you're a leader and you're doing a reinsurance presentation or a presentation with a big dealer group and your team is with you, let them have the win every time. It's going to make them feel good. Not only that, they're going to love you for it, even though they know you had a huge part in it. And it's going to create an environment where they have more confidence that the next dealer presentation that you have, you can delegate probably 90% of it to them, because they're going to be on fire and they know you have their back. In closing, so my father-in-law, Eric Schechter, if you guys have ever seen a rubber duck with sunglasses, it's a pool product company my father-in-law built from the ground up. There's been tough times and good times. He sold it for over 8 figures back in 2018. And his advice to me was always slow to hire, quick to fire. He said, no one ever said, what did he say? He said, no one ever said, I waited too long to fire him. You know, it's like, I should have fired them 6 months ago, right? I recently went through a time where a dear friend of mine worked with me for a long time. Some of you may know him, and love him so much and have done so much for this person. And he was doing so well for a long time and just given opportunity after opportunity and too much grace and too much mercy. And our team was seeing it, and it just became at a point to where I just said enough is enough. And this was just recently. And so just understanding that dead weight drags down your culture and performance. And it's just like putting one little drop of arsenic in a little bowl of water. That whole bowl of water is now toxified. So just something to consider when you're working on building an agency, looking at talent, or even with an admin. What you tolerate will then be seen by everybody in the organization, and they will do different things behind closed doors because of that. So if you foster a level of accountability, openness, safeness, honesty, it actually gets more fun, because then there's a level of trust where people say, I can just be my raw, authentic self, and everybody focuses on what's most important. Lastly, if you want to connect with us, there's a little QR code there. You can connect with us on social. I want to thank you guys all for your time today. It was a pleasure to be able to speak with you here at Agent Summit, and have a wonderful time.